All right, guys, welcome into another workshop today. I know it's been probably about a month at this point, which is pretty wild. And I'm already losing my voice, of course, in the video because a month off that'll do it to you. But hope everybody's been doing well. I originally thought this was going to be toward the end of June, but I ended up having so much to do that I had to push this back all the way to almost mid July at this point because today's the 13th, and yeah, I'm happy to be back, and hopefully we can start at least for a little bit doing these again every other week. And this one is going to be hopefully relatively short, not too long. I say that every time, but this is kind of going to be piggybacking on a topic we did last year about burnout, but this time it's going to be mostly about spreading yourself too thin as a creative. And it kind of came to mind just one day where I was like thinking about the amount of things you have to do, especially as a musician, the amount of different hats you have to wear. And for me, I've always tried to figure out the ways to wear a lot of hats, but not really wear too much where I'm not being good at anything. It's kind of like that jack of all trades, master of none type scenario. Um, and I've also heard it other ways where it's like jack of all trades, master of one, or whatever. But I always think that there is a point where you will do too much, and you won't be able to put the right amount of focus on every single thing. And what I've been doing a lot lately, especially in the last couple months, for content, for different things on social media, is shifting my strategy. Every year or so, sometimes more, sometimes 2 years, I try to shift away from one piece of content and start up something else in its place instead of just continuously adding on. And that's to keep myself fresh. That's to keep myself from having to do way too much. I just want the right amount, and I want to be able to keep what I'm doing fresh for the audience too, because there's some pieces of content like the podcast, and I do the weekly beat from BeatStars, things like that. I've been doing those for 5 or 6 years. That's probably the longest pieces of content I've done. Everything else, for the most part, I kind of switch it out every couple of years, or try to at least. And I try to challenge myself, brainstorm ways to do that. But even outside of content, social media, just what kind of roles are we taking on? What kind of freelance work we're doing? Some of us work full time jobs or even part time jobs, so you have to account for that. And then you might do your own solo stuff. For me, it's been a mix of all those things. Currently, I work full time, but I also do my own projects, my own music, solo releases, collabs, but then I still do freelance work for others as well. So it's a lot, and every week is different, every month is pretty different, but it's just about finding a way to make that make sense for your lifestyle, where you're at this point in time. And I think that this list here, this is from neat.com. I don't really know what this company does. It looks like they sell furniture, maybe. If anybody knows what this is, neat, let me know. But I found this article written in 2022 by Haley Spooner. It says 9 ways to avoid and overcome spreading yourself too thin. And obviously, they didn't make this for music makers or probably even creatives. I think they just made this for the everyday person. But I think all this stuff can apply to us as creatives. So I wanted to go over it today, but I'm not going to go over every detail. We're just going to cover these points. I'm going to touch on them a little bit based on what I know about them. And then feel free to read the full article by going to the link in the description of the video. Dust thing flying around. Um, yeah, link in the description of the video. Read the whole thing if you want, but we're just going to cover the main points. 9 points, like I said, signs you're spread too thin. Number one, you lack the ability to concentrate. which I just did with a piece of dust flying around. So that's pretty hilarious. Yeah, obviously concentration is the biggest part of being productive, or one of the biggest parts of being productive, because if you don't if you're not able to concentrate on one thing at a time, it goes back to what I said earlier, where you're only putting so much energy into that thing. And if you're not putting 100%, it's going to show in the work. And, that's just the obvious thing with whatever you do. Obviously, if you have a job too, like you got to think, if you lose concentration during your job, that can be very impactful. So, whatever you're doing creatively, it's the same thing. It's like if you break that concentration at any point, it could really affect the way that the final end result comes out. And I don't know if I know of any experiences that it's happened with me personally, creatively. I guess that's just because I can barely remember yesterday sometimes, like what I did, like what song I made or what piece of content I was putting together. But I've always found that being able to focus on one thing at a time is the best way to go, because you really do put your all into that one thing. And that's a big reason why I have checklists every day, the daily checklist of like what actually needs done today. That way I can focus on one thing at a time, check it off the list. So that stuff helps with concentrating. Another thing, this is just, again, I'm just spitballing here, you know, whatever your environment is, like let's say whatever room you're in. Right now, I'm in just my room. So there's no, I have an outside window, like I can see outside, but I don't have a TV in here. I don't have anything else going on in here that's going to really distract me. And that's kind of why I like to come up here and just be up here with my thoughts and my work, because I'm able to get things done. Sometimes I'm sitting in front of the TV, and even if the TV's on kind of just in the background, I might not even be paying attention to whatever's on, but I find myself, breaking that concentration looking at the TV. It's like, so I don't always like to do that. Like sometimes it's something I can ignore or just something to be on in the background. Sometimes though, I don't enjoy having any other like screens around me or anything like that, or even people. It's like it's got to be a person that isn't going to distract you in that moment and break the concentration. Number two, you're always falling behind. And I guess that ties in with, whatever your schedule is week to week, even day to day. Pretty stupid example. I don't know why I just thought of this. Think about Spider-Man 2, right? The original movie Spider-Man 2. Peter Parker, I'm talking about the Tobey Maguire one here. I don't know if anyone's seen this. I feel like most people have. I don't know. I was a Spider-Man fan growing up, so these are movies I grew up on. In Spider-Man 2, the whole movie begins that, Peter has these powers, like he knows he's Spider-Man now, all this stuff, but he is struggling to keep up with the rest of his day-to-day life. Like he's in college, he has a job at a pizza place. He's trying to, I think he was dating Mary Jane at that point, or trying to ask Mary Jane on a date or something. He had all this stuff going on top of saving the world, right? So like the whole first half of the movie is just him struggling with his life. Like his life is absolutely in shambles. And I always think about that in regards to like staying productive, and like keeping a good schedule, keeping a good balance, because it's an example of someone that lost the balance of their life. And I think if I remember correctly, the way that he finds the balance is by completely like losing his powers or something like that. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that happens. Watch the movie. A lot of people think it's the best Spider-Man movie ever. I don't think it is, but yeah, I always kind of think about like his life being in shambles in that movie for a good amount of the movie. But I'm like, he had it pretty bad, right? Like the rest of us, we could probably figure things out because we don't have the pressure of like we got superpowers, So pretty dumb example. But yeah, just something to think about. I mean, and too, like when you are falling behind, you can always kind of feel that, and I've always been able to feel it within the work that I do. And then you kind of have to sit yourself down and get on top of that somehow, like figure out ways to shift to where you can get on top of it and just do better. I mean, you just have to find ways to do better. Having accountability partners too kind of helps. Maybe not always yourself. I mean, you have to hold yourself accountable, but maybe, ask somebody around you to hold you accountable to your schedule, whatever it is. And I've always looked at it as the more you get the hang of it, the easier it gets. So, but you'll know, like you will know if it feels like you are falling behind. Give yourself grace, of course, but just, stay on top of things, cover yourself as much as possible, and allow yourself time to not fall behind. Because if you plan ahead, you're probably not going to fall behind. Number three, you always feel sick, irritable, or anxious. I am definitely someone that has always dealt with anxiety, some form of social anxiety or just self anxiety. Um, and it's definitely tough. I mean, I've talked about it on this channel before, just trying to navigate that and figure out the ways day to day to get through life and not like get in my own head too much. It really is just getting in your own head. And that can also kind of be another place where the accountability partner helps because luckily, that person, whoever that might be, they're not in your head. So they're not feeling what you're feeling. They can be that person to reassure you that it's going to be all good. You're going to be all right. Like you're going to get through whatever it is you're feeling at the time. And maybe it's not related to creative energy or anything like that. Maybe it's just your life is kind of taking a weird turn and there might be some unexpected things happening that you're not feeling great about at that moment. It can always help to have the reminder from someone else that you're going to be good. Um, so if you can find that person, you know, do that. If not, just know it's going to be good. And I'll be the person to tell you right here on this video, it's going to be good. There's ups and downs in everything we do. You just got to keep riding the wave and you will make it to the other side. But as someone that deals with anxiety and still does, has always really dealt with some form of it, you just got to find ways to manage it in healthy ways, obviously. And you can overcome that and still do great things. Number four, everything feels like a chore. This is definitely something I would relate to content, like making content, which I've talked about many times about how everyone wants to make it feel like work. But if you can flip it and make it feel like fun, make it feel like something that's exciting, it's all about perspective. A lot of that just goes into having a good perspective, or at least like a perspective that is better than maybe what you're accustomed to or what the people around you have. Perspective would change a lot of that work, and even in your music, I always say that if making music ever feels like work, like every day, I might not make it. I might just be done making music because it's like that kind of defeats the purpose of why I started creating in the first place. I created because it was a fun thing to do. And still to this day, 10 years later, I still love just opening up the laptop and just making a song from scratch. I've never done anything that gives me that type of feeling before. And even if it's client work, man, it never feels like it's a job. Like it never feels like it's something that I'm being forced to do. So that's another one where you got to sit yourself down. Like if you notice that feeling is like creeping up, you got to identify why that is and be able to address that and be able to figure that out. So that kind of ties back with which one was it? The concentration and the anxiety part. I mean, it kind of all ties together, just obviously different in different ways. The days start blurring together. this can definitely happen, especially with repetition. If you're doing the same thing every day, if you do have a job, think about your job, you know, especially if you do monotonous work. I know at my job, very monotonous stuff. Like I'm relatively doing the same thing every day. It does. It blurs together. Like I couldn't tell you what I did last Friday, which was only 4 days ago. Couldn't tell you. I don't know because what I did today is kind of what I did Friday and what I did the previous week. So that can be a thing. I think what helps in creativity and just like making music is that you can keep it fresh by yourself. Certain things you do can only be done one way. Making music can be done in many different ways. You collaborate, you try to pick up a new instrument, maybe you try to make a song or a beat in a different way. If you're recording vocals, try to do it in a way you've never done it before, see how that works. Could be exciting, could be new, change your environments up. So many different options that you could do to make it feel exciting again. Like if you lose the excitement, once again, kind of all goes back to having the inner conversation with yourself and saying, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel like it's not exciting anymore like it used to be? And that can go as deep as saying like maybe you're not as passionate about it as you used to be, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you really have to figure out why you feel that way and then address it, no matter what it is. I think this is a continuation. Oh yeah, so this is the last. It says 9, but it's really not. It's really more than 9. I don't know. Common reasons you might feel. Uh, Common reasons you might feel spread too thin. That's weird to say. I don't know about the arrangement of the words there. Number one, unforeseen tasks pop up or take longer than planned. I always think about setting deadlines. Like if you set a deadline for a project and it doesn't happen the way that you have envisioned it to happen originally, might be discouraging. Um, I think that's why I've never really, I don't want to say I've never had like deadlines for anything, but I don't, my deadlines are rough, especially for my own projects. It's like, I don't want to put that pressure to where it's like, I got to get it done in this amount of time. I kind of select a rough timeline and time frame and then work from there and see if I can make it in that time. Usually I do. I mean, usually it's not like a huge issue, but obviously with client work and things like that, there are usually a set deadline that that person needs it done by. So the pressure's on for sure. I don't know. I think it's about kind of finding ways to alleviate that, which to me would be working with the right people, working with people that understand that you're a human being too. You're not just a machine that's constantly going to be pumping out ideas. You need the proper time and space to make something great for that person. So I always try to vet, who I'm working with, things like that. That can help. And if your back's just really against the wall and like life is hitting you, and then you got these deadlines, I don't know, it's just like figuring out how to navigate through that moment. But usually when it seems dire and it seems like you're not going to get through that, you figure out how to do it and you become a little better every time that you do have to do that. But obviously, the ideal scenario is that you get things done on time, you feel good about it, you don't feel rushed, and you feel like you put in that 100% of your time and effort, which kind of culminates to all these things we're talking about here. It's like the perfect marriage of all of them coming together in unison, and that to me is the best option. And just you hope you get there, but the more you work, the more likely that will be. You don't have to rely. You don't have enough reliable help. Um, which again, if I've already said this a few times, you might not have someone around you. You might just be by yourself. So I don't know. I mean, I can only speak on my own experience. I've been able to really lock in with myself, and I've never really had issues with feeling like I needed help from anyone. To be honest, it's great to have the help when the help is provided, but I don't think there's anything you can't do alone, honestly. Like, it might require a little extra time and effort, but if you want it bad enough and you figure out how to obtain it, you'll do it. Like, you will figure out how to do it. I mean, the 2013 version of me, which would have been, I think I would have been, how old would I have been? 16, I think, somewhere in there. That was around the time I was taking driving lessons. So yeah, I was probably 16. But even like the 16-year-old version of me, I was in high school. I would have never imagined I'd be doing the things I'm doing now, and that's a good thing. I was just not very motivated, pretty lazy, didn't really have a direction, but I gave myself direction. I gave myself the purpose that I was here to do and the purpose that I feel like I'm called to do. And I've just followed this path no matter what. And I never had a mentor. I never had anybody directly in my life that was telling me to do this stuff. I've just done it because I wanted to do it, and I've just maneuvered through it. So I'm an example, I think, of someone that never had anybody in my corner really, other than, I've had people encourage me for sure, but like, I would be lying if I said I had a bunch of people around me that were in my corner, because that's not really the case. And definitely no one that showed me how to do any of the things I do now. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just my experience. And let me know in the comments, like, what is your experience with that? Have you been able to kind of maneuver it by yourself with no help? Or have you had mentors in the past? Have you had people encouraging you along the way? Like, that's just not my experience. So I can't get to the point of telling you, like, oh, you need people to encourage you, because it's like, you do, it helps, but it's not really necessary to get things done. As long as this is a solo journey for you, I think you'll be okay and you'll figure it out. Everyone comes to you to solve their problems, and you can all, you feel like that even in your life probably from time to time, especially if you kind of have things together on your end. A lot of people will notice that. A lot of people will look to you for guidance. Um, I've never considered myself like a leader per se. I think I'm a good leader for me. I don't think I would trust myself always leading other people. I like to, and I've probably said this on videos before, I like to not give people advice, but just tell them my story, like what I just did. Literally, I told you my story. I didn't tell you this is how it's going to go, but I told you my experience, and you can do with that what you will. It might not mean anything to you because your experience, your life experience, might be totally different than mine. So you might not be able to relate to anything I just said, but I think it just gives a perspective. I love hearing people's perspectives, hearing their stories. What I don't like is when people try to tell me how to do something based on what happened to them, or like tell you how it's going to go because that's what happened to them. That's not the case. Everybody's life is totally different. Just because they're similar paths doesn't mean the outcome is going to be the same. So I always just look at it that way, as like, I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just going to tell you what happened based on my experience, and then go from there. See what happens. Number 4, you take on additional duties. That could be a big part of the burnout problem, which we did talk about, I think, on the burnout workshop, where you're doing too much. And that's what I said at the beginning. Sometimes you got to cut things out and just add in the new things to replace them. You can't do everything. We all wish we could. A lot of people think I do a ton. They don't know how I do all the things I do. But even I have had to cut things out to make room for the next thing, because I literally cannot do it all, no matter what that is. 5, you don't have a good way to organize your work. We've talked about organization. Definitely watch the workshop we did about daily planners and things like that. 9 ways to avoid. I think this is what we just basically did. I don't know the organization of this. This is interesting. I've already been on here for a while, so I'm not going to go through these. I feel like I've already overstayed my welcome. But if you guys want to go through these, I don't really understand the organization of this article. All I know is that it has great points. But this next section, like I said, not going to go through this because I'll just be going on and on forever. 9 ways to avoid and overcome spreading yourself too thin. So I think this is just okay. I understand. So the first half essentially is like recognizing it, right? And then they give you the ways to actually do it. Um, so go ahead and go through those. Go through the article or the rest of the article. I mean, but that's great. It's in two halves. See, I didn't even know that. I always thought it was just in one half. But I did review this about a month ago, so it's been a while since I read it. But you'll be able to go through this and figure out ways to kind of apply it. I kind of gave you the ways based on my experience, but this list is a lot more in depth. Probably gives a lot more guidance for different types of individuals and what they're doing. But yeah, definitely check it out. Link in the description. Shout out to Neat for whatever they do, whatever products they make. Looks like they make boards and things to hang your boards and whatever that thing is. But yeah, pretty cool article. The other one that I have is from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and it is the key of calm: six stress management tips for musicians. This is not really directly related to spreading yourself thin, but the way I view it is stress is a big factor or a big side effect of spreading yourself too thin. So I kind of wanted to couple it with an article like this that is very simple, very self explanatory for the most part, but it's about managing your stress. Because I think if you get on top of this stuff, and we've talked about a lot of this stuff before in other workshops, you get on top of this stuff first, that other stuff, this other stuff will be a lot easier right off the rip, at least from what I've experienced. So check out that one too. I'll put that one in the description. Just 6 little points, good reminders to have, things like that. But yeah, hopefully I didn't ramble too long. I felt like I rambled. That's why I didn't go over the second half of the video or the article. But check them out. Link in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Not even gonna try to guess when the next one's gonna be, but hopefully, at least for the next month or so, we're back on every couple weeks. As always, stay safe, stay positive out there. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about any of this. By the way, I know I mentioned it earlier. Let me know how you feel. Do you feel like you're spread too thin? Do you feel like you have just the right amount currently of work that you're doing? How do you feel your life is looking overall as a creative right now and just as a human being? And yeah, stay safe, stay positive. We'll see you guys in the next one. As always, thanks for watching.